Guys, what did I say last night, right? Or yesterday. So earlier yesterday, when I broke it down, and I explained how things were going to play out, I said we are going to get a really nice strong bounce here, erase this dip if, based on the 4-hour model, we got enough on this 4-hour bounce to erase this last dip. We obviously blew that away, continued upward. Everything that I explained in my last video. We had each of my dynamic supports at the top of the cloud, the horizontal support, the 990 EMA right here, that cluster of supports giving us confluence, right? Created everything we need to bounce along with the trend reversal on the 4-hour Stoke. I mean, my Stoke model, my Ichima model have been flawless. Right now, we're incredibly green across the board. There was some news that just came out about MasterCard accepting crypto payments through Backed. Lots of good fundamentals at play here. The technicals are strong. Everything tells me we continue the run up. Now, 4-hour charts do indicate a potential trend reversal, but what was I showing you last night? Or what was I showing you yesterday? In the case of Bitcoin, let me pull it back up again. Where did I just put her? BTC, right? When we look at the daily model, you can see the Stoke on the daily model. I said as soon as we get that confirmation down here, this crossover and trend reversal, we're starting a multi-day bull run. So even with the 4-hour trend reversal and we come back down for 8, 16 hours, we'll come back down and move sideways for a little bit, but overall we continue upward. Now, I don't necessarily think we're going to get the short-term correction. I might get into some more trades right now. I'm based on bullish announcements, things like that. We're just going to push up and stay bullish throughout the day. We're so aggressively bullish now, I don't think we're going to stop this bounce for a 4-hour correction. And if we do, based on the 4-hour model, it would probably just be a small sideways move where we have like, after running up like this, we get 2 or 3 moves sideways with just a few candles, then we continue upward more. I don't expect a big dip down. Just to show you what I mean, something like this, right? Strong move up, and then here were 1, 2, 3, 4 candles on the 4-hour chart that went sideways before pushing up again. Could be something like that. So I'm probably going to get into some other trades, but I think I'm going to target them where I'm getting into alts that haven't really made a move yet. Some of them, especially my trades, are looking exceptionally good. My JST trade, which dipped back down close to my entry before, is back up to 6%, 7%. My Rune trade, which was obviously my big trade just for the premium members of the group, 75% breakout. Now, yesterday, I shared this trade when it was down 65%, right? It was up 65% when I shared it with the basic members of the group, because originally it was only for the premium members of Flux Trading Group. I only shared that trade and that analysis with them. After it ran up 65%, I shared it with the basic members of the group. And then after it ran up another 10% and it was up 75%, then I posted it in the public chat. And still, after all that, it's still early. If you watch my video where I talk about Rune, I'm talking about a much larger, much longer, and bigger bull run on Rune. So it's still really early for that. Definitely watch my YouTube video where I talk about it, because I explained the initial breakout is only to get those big gains in, those really big profits for the premium members of the group. And then after that, long term, everybody can join into the fun and catch that next big wave up, which is going to be a big run. My other open trades, Link is blowing up right now. I'm now up. We're up 24, almost 24% on Link. That trade's been doing exceptionally well. My other newer trades, again, some of the trades I got into a couple of days ago, I talked about this last night. I got stopped out on because I entered some short-term trades where I had a tight stop loss, and this last correction caused me to get stopped out on some of those. But that's fine. Obviously, my most profitable trades are still in tons of profit. Yesterday, I specifically talked about that, and I said, hey, we're dipping today, but I'm not worried. I'm not closing those trades. Like when I'm sitting on these big profits in these trades, I'm not going to close those positions because we're going down a little bit today and getting a small correction, because overall I'm expecting much more profit. It's going to go back up. Sure enough, that's why. If I closed out any of those trades, look what I would have missed out on, right? We're green across the board right now. My Tel trade is looking good. This is one where I talked about a big breakout. We had an initial 13% breakout, and then we settled down, and then today we spiked up to a 16%. I don't have a stop loss on this trade. Again, this was a trade where I loaded up. I bought a bunch of it, and I talked about how it has such an explosive move potential, just like ELF, that I wasn't putting a stop loss. I was just buying and accumulating, and I was waiting for that big run. It's broken out a couple times, and then it dipped down again. It just broke out again really aggressively here. I expect much more action on Tel. ELF hasn't really made her move yet, When she does, she's going to be explosive. So I really, really love this ELF model. I talked about how there are some minor signs here that ELF is a little bit on the side of losing steam or potentially making another move and another bearish move down. But 90% of this is super bullish, so I decided to load up on ELF. And if it does happen to go down again, it's not the end of the world. Maybe I'll buy more lower, average my entry price in. But I think there's a really, really high probability that ELF is going to break out. So I'm still holding a nice bag of her. And then my other positions, I have positions in CHZ, Sun, ADA as well, and I'm gonna open some new trades, I think. So I'm gonna run through my watch list. ADA is another one where I expect a big breakout. She's within this wedge. Now, she hasn't broken out yet, but you'll notice she's pretty close right here to the bottom, this trend line support. So if you wanted to get into ADA, you could theoretically buy like right around the current price, right? And then you could put a stop loss just below this prior bottom, right, where we whipped down and hit right here. You could put a stop loss below that, and it would only be 2.5% below your entry. So with a stop loss 2.5% below your entry, that's fairly low risk. If it happens to go back down and the support fails and you get stopped out, you lose 2.5%, not a huge amount. But if it does break out and she breaks out above the trendline resistance here, that's going to be an explosive move because I'm expecting a big, big, big move out of ADA, which you can see when you look at the higher time frames. You can see it when you look at the daily, really low stoke there. But then look at where we are in the middle, where we have the 99 EMA. See the 99 EMA, one of my key each of my dynamic supports on the daily chart. That's a really, really strong, strong support. Then we have the weekly, which is just turning up. Look at that stoke just turning up on the weekly. I'm telling you, ADA is about to break out, and when she does on the weekly model, she's going to all-time highs, so it's going back up to over $3. I really, really like ADA here, so I'm still holding my position there. And those mid to long term holds, I'm just going to give it some time and let it play out. Now, based on the 4 hour chart, like I was saying before, I'm expecting maybe a tiny dip or a little bit of sideways action cooling off midday over the next several hours, right? And then as we get in later into the afternoon, we continue pushing up. What we might see here is a little bit of a dip back down. So even though I just showed you how you could potentially trade ADA here, I wouldn't do it because I think we might dip down or go sideways. So there might be a better opportunity to enter. Even if it continues upward, I would wait to get in until we make sure that we don't correct. Because since the stoke is so high, you can see when the stoke gets up here to these higher levels and it starts to turn down, if you look at the bottom of the chart, like over here, right? It got all the way up and then it turned back down, and you can see that's when it got right up here and came back down and corrected a bit on the price. Before that, you can see it in this example, and then in this example, tiny little bounce up, and then as the stoke turned down, we came back down. So no matter what, the fact that the stoke is turning down tells me we're going to get some sort of correction. It might just be a few sideways candles. It might be coming back down a little bit. Either way, it's better to wait it out, and then you can get in as that stoke resets a bit. As it gets lower, it could start a new momentum cycle, and then you could buy in before that next move up. So I really like how my trades are doing, and I really like overall how the market looks. I think I'm going to enter into some trades. I'm just going to try to run through my list and see which setups look ideal. I'm probably going to get into setups that haven't really made a move yet. IOST is a trade that I've had open for days that hasn't really made any sort of big move. She's just been moving sideways here. But she still held pretty stable. She hasn't really gone down much when everything else was correcting, but she hasn't gone up much either. So I'm waiting for her to break out above these dynamics because these are the Ichima dynamics here. All these EMAs and the cloud are creating a really big resistance superstructure here. Once IOST breaks above that resistance superstructure, she pumps all the way up to 10 cents. It's going to be a really, really big run. She's going to go up 60, 70, 80% once she gets above those main resistance levels. So keep an eye on IOST as well. And things like UTK is down a tiny bit. In other words, she hasn't really gone up today, but look what's happening here on the 4 hour chart. The stoke turned up. She started moving up a little bit and then turned south, but now she's sitting right on the bottom of the cloud. The 222 EMA is there. This might be an opportunity to get in because she hasn't made a big move up like everything else, but she's sitting on good supports with the 222 EMA and the bottom of the cloud. That might be a good setup to jump into here. KSM hasn't really made a move yet. She's still sitting at pretty much even, but she's been running for a while, so looks a little bit overextended. He's pretty high on the Stokes, so I wouldn't do that. I think UTK is probably the best bet so far, but there might be some other setups. I'll keep going through my list, and I'll let you guys know what, if anything, I see. See if maybe OMG is ready for a move. She's getting close, not quite there. ETC. ETC looks great for a move, but I need her to come down more first. So you can see the Stoke turning down here on the 4 hour. I'm going to wait because I think a couple more candles come down. Ideally, then we have this cloud wall, because if we can get down to these lower levels, it's going to launch back up and end above the cloud right here. So it's going to end the day above 55, but she could come down and approach this cloud right here, and that will be the time to buy in. Gets closer to these EMAs to where the cloud is, and then as it gets closer to the top of the cloud here, then you have a cloud wall. You buy in, she spikes back up and gets right back above the cloud. Then she's open to break out into the high 50s and 60s. So ETC could have a good setup as well. I'll keep an eye on her. I'm thinking so far, I just quickly clicked through a few. I haven't looked at my entire watch list, but I think UTK might actually be pretty close to a good entry. Let me see what happens on the 4 hour. The 4 hour, again, just turning down. Everything else is turning down too, but she never really got to those higher levels on the Stoke. And the hourly Stoke is still really low, so she could certainly bounce. The Stoke is tricky on her. It's not really giving me that clear of a signal, so I want to see what happens on the 4 hour. If the 222 EMA in the bottom of the cloud hold really well and start to move back up, I might want to jump into a trade on her because we can see a move kind of like we had last time. I'll let you guys know. I'm going to keep looking. I'll run through my watch list. I'll give you guys an update in a bit. But so far, extremely bullish. Expecting a little bit of a cool-off period midday right here. Could come down a tiny bit. Probably more likely we move mostly sideways for a little bit, cool off and bleed back some of those gains from the morning. And then later in the day, we start that next push up, and that would be the time to enter. So keep an eye on that. Look for that Stoke to retrace on the 4 hour and come back down a little bit. Probably need 8, maybe 12 hours for that momentum to bleed off and get those Stoke to the lower levels, at least halfway of a retrace. Then we could